Is Lady Gaga's Abracadabra actually a coded message? Some occultists are saying that this music video is not just entertainment, but an initiation ritual hidden in plain sight. There are patterns in this video that connect to ancient magic, alchemy, and secret societies. And the craziest part? It's not just about Lady Gaga, it's about you. The message hidden in Abracadabra is something so powerful, so transformative, that once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because this video isn't just about Gaga's performance, it's about a force that's been buried, suppressed, and erased for centuries. And now it's starting to wake up. So what is this hidden message and what does it mean for you? We're gonna find out right now. Lady Gaga is no stranger to occult controversy. For years, she's been accused of being a part of the Illuminati, using secret society imagery and esoteric themes hidden in her music videos. Now, some say that she's just playing with aesthetics, and others believe that she's sending messages in plain sight. But Abracadabra, this might be her most cryptic yet. Is it a musical ritual designed to warp the very fabric of reality, or is it just a banger with a kick-ass music video? Well, to answer these questions, we have to go back, all the way back to where it all began. Let's talk about the word abracadabra itself. Now, you probably think of it as some cheesy word that magicians say in cheap tuxedos before they pull a rabbit out of the hat. But here's the thing, this word is ancient, like biblical level ancient. It's a formula that's been used for almost 2,000 years. So what does it mean? While its exact meaning has never been verified, some scholars believe that abracadabra has Aramaic origins, meaning I create as I speak. If that sounds familiar, it should, because this is the exact same principle found in the book of Genesis. Let there be light, and suddenly reality exists. So if abracadabra means creation, manifestation through speech, then what happens when Lady Gaga sings and chants it over and over like an incantation? In ceremonial magic, repeating a word of power amplifies its energy, strengthening its manifestation. But Gaga doesn't just sing abracadabra, it also appears on the screen. Now, at first glance, you might just think it's some cool font choice, but there's something actually hidden here. You can see that the two A's in the center, they're inverted, and not just randomly, they're mirroring each other. And notice that those inverted A's are right in Lady and Gaga. Coincidence? Well, occultists would say absolutely not, because this isn't just a fun design choice, this is the principle in magic known as above, so below, which is often represented by two triangles pointing in opposite directions, just like the A's on screen. And as above, so below actually holds the key to the hidden message in Gaga's video. And if you don't know what that means, you're about to get a crash course in Hermetic magic. So what does as above, so below mean? Well, this phrase comes from something called the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus. Now, don't confuse this with the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. You know, the ones that Billy Carson is always talking about. Those are fakes, pretty much the wish.com versions. I have a whole video on that if you want to check it out. But the Emerald Tablet of Hermes is a verified ancient Hermetic text that has shaped everything from alchemy to Freemasonry, secret societies, and modern occultism. So what does it mean? It means that the above, the universe, the divine, is reflected in the below, human beings, physical reality, that the hidden world, spirit, magic, the unconscious influences the seen world, matter, events, consciousness, that opposites are reflections of the same force, light and darkness, good and evil, male and female. And this brings us to the core of the theme of the video, which is duality. See, the word abracadabra also has ties to the shadowy Gnostic god named Abraxas. And if you haven't heard of him before, don't worry, because you're about to. So who is, or what is, Abraxas? So if you were raised in mainstream Christianity, like me, I'm an ex-Christian, you were probably told that there's only one God. Well, the Gnostics didn't get that memo. Gnosticism was a form of early Christianity that emerged in the 1st and 2nd centuries CE. But this isn't the Christianity you were taught in school. The Gnostics were the original spiritual rebels and taught that the God of the Bible was not the supreme God. Instead, that God, the God of the Bible, was an evil being trapping souls of light in the material world. But there was another God, a higher God, a God that was beyond the dualities of good and evil, beyond light and dark. This God of both light and darkness was called Abraxas. Now, Abraxas' origins and meaning is shrouded in a lot of mystery, but this god has evolved in the occult world today to represent the unification of all dualities. Abraxas wasn't one thing, Abraxas was everything. Light and dark, creation and destruction, male and female, God and the devil, all rolled into one. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, in his book The 7 Sermons to the Dead writes, Abraxas is the sun, and at the same time, the eternally sucking sucking gorge of the void. The 7 letters in the name Abraxas represents the 7 planetary spheres of the ancient world and the 7 days of the week, and in numerology, Abraxas's name adds up to 365, the days of the year. Now, his symbol was engraved onto magical stones used for protection, and according to some, direct connection to divine forces. So what does all this have to do with abracadabra? Well, some esoteric scholars believe that the word abracadabra is derived from Abraxas, the ultimate god that transcends light and darkness. Are you starting to see it's a bit more powerful than what a birthday party magician uses it for? But this is just the tip of the esoteric iceberg. So fast forward to the early 20th century, and who comes along but Aleister Crowley, the infamous occultist. He called himself the Great Beast, 666, and is known as the wickedest man in the world. Crowley took abracadabra and modified it to abrahadabra, claiming it was the word of the new eon, a new era of magic, enlightenment, and the world, and the destruction of old religious structures. Abrahadabra represents the union of opposites, the merging of dualities into one powerful force. It's the key to enlightenment, the completion of what's known as the Great Work. He introduced this word in the Book of the Law, a book that actually tells you to destroy it after reading it. Obviously, I didn't listen. And if you want a whole video on this book, let me know, because it'll blow your mind. So Crowley stated that it was the divine formula for transformation, divine transformation. And if that sounds familiar, that's because this is exactly what's going on in Lady Gaga's video. Now, if you watch closely, you'll see black and white patterns throughout her video. Now, you'll see them most notably in the black and white costumes of the dancers. Now, to the average viewer, it probably just looks like a cool costume choice, but to those who understand esoteric traditions, this is a direct reference to the duality of light and darkness. In Masonic temples, the checkerboard pattern represents the balance of opposites, light and dark, order and chaos, life and death, and the game of life. It is the duality that must be mastered before one can achieve enlightenment. So why is this duality in Gaga's video? Now, not only does she reference this in her lyrics, where she sings, "Save me from this empty fight in the game of life," but there's a lot more to it. The entire video is filled with imagery of opposites colliding, light and darkness, masculine, feminine, order, chaos, life and death, but for what purpose? Some occultists are saying that this video represents the alchemical process of the fusion of opposites to create something new. In alchemy, this is known as the conjunctio, the sacred marriage of opposites. Crowley called it the merging of the solar masculine and the lunar feminine forces to create the divine child, Horus, the new eon. In Gnosticism, Abraxas himself represents this concept, being both light and darkness at the same time. Carl Jung writes, "Abraxas begetteth truth and lying, good and evil, light and darkness in the same word and in the same act." So is Gaga just playing with aesthetic choices here, or is she performing a magical working in front of millions of people? See, this theme of duality isn't just in the visuals, it's in the lyrics too. Gaga sings, "In her tongue she said, death or love tonight." Then in the chorus, she chants amor and morta, referencing the duality of love and death. But then it goes even further, because we see the lady in red. Now, at first glance, she just might seem like another aesthetic, interesting costume choice, but if you know esoteric traditions, you know this isn't just any woman. In the pre-chorus, Gaga sings, "Like a poem said by a lady in red, you hear the last few words of your life." So who is the lady in red? Well, some occultists are saying that this is referencing Babylon, because guess what she's called? The Scarlet Woman. But why does Gaga sing, "You hear the last few words of your life"? In Thelema, which is the mystical system founded by Aleister Crowley in the early 1900s, surrendering to Babylon, the Scarlet Woman represents ego death, the destruction of the old self before being reborn in a higher state. So just who is the Scarlet Woman? If she sounds familiar, it's because she's actually in the Bible. And in the Bible, she's called the Whore of Babylon, and she's found in the final book that describes the end of the world, Revelation. Revelation 17:4 says, "The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of earth's abominations. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints." Sounds like quite the party, but here's the thing. Thelemites and occultists don't see her as a villain. To them, she's not a sign of corruption, but of spiritual freedom. See, Babylon is the divine feminine in her most powerful, unrestrained form. She's the divine feminine force force that consumes the adept's blood, which is symbolic of surrendering the ego to bring them into union with the divine. She's not the submissive, sanitized version of femininity that mainstream religions love to promote. She is raw, untamed, sexual, destructive, and liberating all at once. She is both the seductress and the destroyer, the sacred and the profane. Kind of like, I don't know, Lady Gaga. To Thelemites, she's known as the sacred whore. Why? Because she doesn't swipe left on anybody. She doesn't deny anyone. But hooking up with her comes at a great price, the destruction of one's ego identity. In The Vision and the Voice, Aleister Crowley describes her as the queen riding the beast, a force that's so overwhelming that she consumes the adept in spiritual ecstasy. Babylon demands surrender, but in that surrender, she offers ultimate power. She is sex magic, the return of divine feminine power that breaks all chains, and the destroyer of outdated religious systems. So when Lady Gaga becomes the Lady in Red, what is she really portraying? A rebellious pop star? Or the embodiment of an ancient hidden force, the Scarlet Woman? Babylon the Great. The lyrics, death or love tonight, this mirrors the Thelemic concept of surrendering to divine will, choosing either spiritual death or spiritual rebirth and union with the divine. Then Gaga sings, choose the road on the west side, as the dust flies, watch it burn. This could reference the path of the west, which represents the setting sun, a concept in Hermeticism and Thelema associated with death, transformation, and descent to the underworld. In Egyptian mysticism, the west was the land of the dead. Osiris ruled the underworld, where souls traveled after death. And in alchemy, burning symbolizes purification and transformation, destroying the old ego self so one can be reborn in a higher form like the phoenix rising from the ashes. The concepts of duality, the death of the old self, and transcendence are everywhere. By the way, if you've made it this far without hitting like and subscribe, I can only assume you're being tested by the Lady in Red herself. So initiate yourself by hitting subscribe now. And also check out my books and downloads. Links to all that are in the description of this video. Okay, but here's where it gets even deeper. This isn't just a song about magic. This is about the resurrection of something ancient, something hidden, something that's feared by those in power for centuries. This is the return of the suppressed divine feminine. Once upon a time, before the monotheistic patriarchy decided that one god was enough for everyone, divine goddesses were worshipped openly. In Sumer, she was Inanna, the goddess of love, war, and transformation. In Egypt, she was Isis, the great mother and sorceress. In Greece, she was Aphrodite, Artemis, Hecate, forces of love, power, and mystery. In Rome, she was Venus, Diana, and the result of Magna Mater, the great mother. The earliest human religions were filled with priestesses, sacred sexuality, and feminine energy as a source of creation and destruction. And then Christianity crashed the party. The war began. The rise of monotheism pushed aside the goddesses and replaced her with a male god of laws and judgment. Well, the Catholic Church went on a PR campaign, branding goddess worship as heretical, sinful, dangerous. Paganism was crushed, witches were burned, and powerful women were either erased or portrayed as villains. The Scarlet Woman was the whore of Babylon. Lilith was labeled a demon. Mary Magdalene became a fallen woman who needed salvation instead of an equal to Christ. The message was clear. Feminine power had to be controlled. But here's the thing about power and energy. You can bury it, but you can't kill it. And now the divine feminine is rising again. What couldn't be spoken in churches is now being sung in music videos. What was once banished to the shadows is now being performed on the biggest stages in the world. In Lady Gaga's Abracadabra, the symbols of the divine feminine are right front and center. The Lady in Red could reference Babylon, the force of untamed feminine power. The chanting of Abracadabra, that's manifestation. I create as I speak or sing. This isn't just a trend in music, this is a global energy shift, and you can see the patriarchy everywhere right now trying to suppress women and their rights, but the goddess is returning. Now, not in temples, not in cathedrals, but in the unconscious of millions. And it's right here in the lyrics. Hold me in your heart tonight. I'm the magic of the dark moonlight. The dark moon is sacred in goddess traditions. It represents the hidden feminine, the secret knowledge, the power before rebirth, the time of shadow work, of facing one's inner darkness before transformation. In Thelema and other occult systems, the dark moon is when rituals of power are most potent and is even associated with Lilith. So is Is this just a catchy song, or is it about aligning with the energy of the divine feminine as it rises again in the minds of millions through symbols, music, and art? Well, maybe it's both. After all, who says you can't dance and spark a spiritual revolution at the same time? But hold on, what does Lady Gaga say about all this? So let's switch gears for a minute and examine all this rationally and critically. We've talked about Abracadabra being a modern occult ritual, an initiation, and a symbolic resurrection of goddess worship. But let's address the skeptics. Did Lady Gaga actually mean any of this? What if all this analysis is just wild speculation? Well, let's see what Gaga herself has to say about it. She's describing her song as about facing the challenge of life and the challenge of the night and finding the magic in it all. Gaga also mentions the Lady in Red. She said, "The Lady in Red is all of you that puts you to the test, your internal monologue. Can you do it? Can you do it? Will you do it? Are you good enough? Can you handle it?" This is all about confronting the world, one's circumstances, the struggle of revealing one's true self. So even Lady Gaga's explanation lines up really well with everything that we've just uncovered. Think about it. She's being challenged to dance or die. That sounds a lot like an occult initiation where transformation isn't optional, it's evolve or perish. She transforms, rebirth, ego death, a new being emerges. So did Lady Gaga really mean for Abracadabra to be filled with all these occult references? Well, we don't know for sure, but Gaga is smart and likely knows what she's doing. She could have carefully crafted every reference, embedding the symbols on purpose, or maybe she could have been tapping into these archetypal forces that exist within all of us. Art, especially music, has always been a vehicle for the unconscious, for hidden forces to work through. So Gaga isn't just telling a story here about herself, she's holding up a mirror. The symbols, the lyrics, the themes, whether intentional or unconscious, it doesn't matter, they carry power, and power is meant to be used. And regardless of the intent, one thing is undeniable: this video, this song, has a powerful message. So I want you to ask yourself here, are you just a spectator watching the show, enjoying the music, or is there something in this message that's calling you to awaken, to be part of the dance, to be part of the song, to be part of this game of life, to see beyond the illusions and recognize the forces here that are at play, to reclaim your power, your transformation? It's not just about Gaga, it's about you. The battle between the Virgin and the Lady in Red is the struggle within each of us. We all have an ego that tries to dominate who we are, and we all have a divine, untamed force within, one that seeks to break free, to create, to become. This is about overcoming your old self and stepping into your power, to recall the divine feminine force that's been buried, suppressed, and forgotten. Because whether you realize it or not, the spells are everywhere, shaping consciousness. The question is, will you let it shape you, or will you become the one who wields it? The one who says abracadabra, the one who creates as they speak. But there's a lot more going on behind the scenes here. If you're ready to have your mind blown, watch my video, The Secret Occult Messages Hidden in Pop Music.